we are back yet another week. Week number 3 of reviewing and going deep dive into Harry Potter on the Harry Potter Roundtable. Wow, that was hard to say. Oh my god. Don't take a 4-hour nap. Noted. This week we are going to be introduced to 2 new people. First being Sirius Black and the other one being the new professor, Remus Lupin. Let's jump in on the ride and see what the others thought. Play. Alright, we are back. We are ready to go. I'm ready for another nap, actually. I am not alone. I am joined by Mr. Marvel 613, aka Connor, and of course, everybody's favorite bear, Canadian Basements. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good.
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. I mean, it was a fun watch, so I'm in good spirits.
Yeah, I literally just finished this like 2 seconds before.
Yeah, you pulled the basement and waited.
Yeah. So I can't quote the last like I don't know 17 minutes of dialogue. So just like
yeah, of course.
I seldomly swear, but it's no good.
You just go dig deep on a prostitute.
Yeah, that could work. So without going too into detail, and other than you enjoyed this movie, is there anything else you want to add before we jump into the story?
Try not to spoil too much of it. But I said before we got on here, this is, I mean, obviously so far, but this might be my favorite out of all of them from what I remember, from all the movies, because I've seen them all too. And the thing that I like about this one specifically, and again, we'll get more into details, is that obviously the end is different than the other 2, because I feel like the first 2 was always like, oh, the big bad at the end, and then the end is not quite the big bad, which is both a plus and a minus, which we'll get into. I feel like this is the first one where like Harry comes out with like a somewhat of a W. I feel like the last 2 movies felt kind of like, wow, we just survived by the fucking skin of our ass, and things are here now. But but I feel like this one, it felt like there was some the last line, which we'll get to, was like, oh, I feel like nothing but made a difference, and then like the speech that we'll get into towards the end, where he's like, no, you did make a difference. Genuinely felt like it had like an upbeat ending to it, as opposed to like, well, Harry's alive, and everything's back to normal. 3 students are dead, and everything's back to normal. But also, on the same side of that, as I said before, which we'll get to, there's one aspect of this movie that I'm not particularly a fan of. That being said, I also... there's another point I was going to make to this. Damn it, there's another point I was going to make to this. And it's gone. Completely gone. No, there's one part of this movie that I'm not a huge fan of. But other than that, this is probably one of, if not my favorite of them all.
Well, you know what? I kind of I agree with you. Even like in the past, the book was my favorite. But I have kind of read them as they came out, except I think the first 3 or 4 were out. And this, like, after seeing the first movie and reading the first 2 books, I was kind of like, it hasn't fully gripped me. The 3rd book and the 3rd movie is where the franchise kind of grips me, and it's probably because it just gets a bit more like realistic in tone. It kind of diverts from what was Disney, to finding its own footing and becoming something a bit more than like a carbon copy. Because though I love like the set design and stuff in the first 2 movies, it very much doesn't feel lived in.
It became a bit more serious.
I hate you.
You knew it was gonna happen!
The world of Harry Potter in the first 2 movies doesn't feel lived in. It feels like a stage production.
Okay.
It was like Disney.
For me, it feels like we're going to Disneyland. This was going to look like this one. There's added detail a lot to the world where it feels a bit more grimy and a bit more. It just feels lived. Yeah, exactly. It feels real. That's the best term for it.
Yeah, I know.
What the fuck was I gonna say?
I remember I remember what I was gonna say. This is the beginning trend for me where I'm starting to think Hogwarts is a very shitty school. We'll get into it, but like, I just kept thinking over like certain points. I'm like, man, you guys just suck.
You know what it is? It's like the leadership. All the teachers are fucking terrible.
Oh, man.
Like nobody gives a flying shit of what's going on.
Oh my god, it's true. I'm just like, wow, this school is really crappy.
But it's so yeah. Okay, I don't know. It's kind of like everybody has the ability to do whatever the fuck they want, but there's something like special in that.
Which is weird.
It's no governing police.
And I love it for that reason.
You do? Well, we'll get that.
I want to go live there.
A lot of people did after the movie started coming out.
What?
A lot of people wanted to go live there. A quick shout out to the chat. We got Alpha, Federico, Cody, and Paul Arzola joining us tonight. How you folks doing out there? Again, there's not much in the pre-production of this movie. It was pretty much guaranteed. All 7 of them are going to be made. So we'll just...
Forever.
Yeah. We'll just jump right into the story here. Opening up at the Dursleys' home where Harry Potter lives and is staying as usual during the summer holidays. Uncle Vernon's sister Marge comes to visit and treats Harry with a general contempt. She viciously insults him and his parents, angering Harry, who unwittingly uses his innate magical powers to cause her to inflate and float off, out of the Dursleys' house and into the twilight. Harry flees the Dursleys' home, furious. At first he walks with determination, but soon grinds to a stop as he realizes he hasn't anywhere to go. I'm going to pause it right there.
Love this.
Yes. One little side note. Pam Ferris, who plays Sister Marge, is also Mrs. Trenchbull.
Huh.
Who the fuck is that?
From the movie Matilda with Danny DeVito.
Wow, I didn't even fucking recognize. Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So many Easter eggs. Yeah.
There's quite a few Easter eggs in this, and when it comes to those points, I will point them out. But yeah. The sister here, this is something interesting that JP even brought up, which, yeah, I thought about this for years as well. At this point, Marge is sitting at the table, finishing up their dinner, and she's been ordering Harry around like he's a common servant. But then she sits there and talks about Harry's dad, calls him a drunk. Harry corrects her and says he was not a drunk, and then from there... She then goes on to Harry's mother, who is Petunia's sister, and Petunia's just going to sit there and take it?
Yes.
So
she didn't like her sister.
Well, here's the part I was going to ask about that. So she's the sister of the uncle.
Yes.
What? Oh,
yeah, she is Vernon's sister.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to demute for a second. I just love this whole scene because she's cunt.
Yes.
Pure and simple.
Yeah. This is probably my favorite Dursley opening of all the movies.
Yes.
And also, like, there's a couple things you notice right away with this movie. It has, like, a darker palette in terms of, like, color. Everything is darker, and it adds to things looking a bit more real.
And it's raining.
Sorry?
And it's raining.
Well, it rains
whereas
a lot
the other
more,
times it's been sunny.
And it's like fucking London, for fuck's sakes.
Yes, but the other two movies opened and it was sunny. This time it was raining.
but like England is like notoriously
yeah.
rainy place, but it should be raining is what I'm saying. But anyways, the outside of the outside of the noticeable change in color and tone, best Dursley scene, I did. Well, fucking, they do a great job of making you hate this woman immediately.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Because she's obviously like ignorant and an asshole, and talks down to Harry, but kind of is like, I don't know why anyone would put up with her. She just seems like a terrible person.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, yes, give me more of the fucking brandy. And then she turns around and says, like, yeah, he was a drunk. Where she's out there with like a fucking mug half full of brandy.
Also, worst dog owner fucking feeding brandy to the dog.
She commits a cardinal sin that I don't care who you are. It's the same thing as like, oh, I'm gonna have this ice cream cone while my dog licks part of it, and then I'm gonna put it back in my mouth.
Yeah.
That's fucking gross, man. I don't care who you are. Don't share your plate with your dog.
No.
If you finish eating and you want to give the dog food, whatever. But if you're both eating the same thing at the same time,
I'm gonna vomit in your lap. If I ever see that, I will vomit in your lap. Okay.
Did you also notice that she had a very visible mustache?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
I was like, that was a good choice. Why not? Fuck this woman.
I also, I know I might be jumping a little bit ahead here, but the scene right after where she's floating away and then...
No, it was mentioned.
What's that?
It was mentioned in this.
Okay. I put a note here, just grab the fucking wand. He literally, like, Harry's, like, threatening to use the wand, which I love, which is great. You know, it's like, I wish there was maybe one more movie to build this, or one more story to build up, like, him finally be like, fuck this shit, I'm out, which is a great thing. But, like, literally, he's holding it point blank, just grab the fucking thing.
But you see, he's already proven he doesn't need it to do something, either.
Which I'm so confused about, because it seems like when he's in school...
He needs it for everything.
Yeah, when he's out of school, it's like, all of a sudden, I'm just inertly magical. And also, like, the movie starts with him doing magic at a school.
Yes, that's the other thing JP brought up. He's sitting in his room doing Luminos and Luminos Maxima.
And it's such a big plot point later on to not do magic.
Yes.
I forgot about that.
Out of school.
I forgot about the illuminating thing where, like, there's a light that's like the fucking, like, it can light up the entire goddamn cul-de-sac.
Lighthouse.
And Dursley just comes in and is like, I guess it was nothing, and then shuts the door.
Also, what did he, like, he looked like he was asleep. Did he fucking see light, or did he, like, hear it? Like,
I think he heard Harry saying Luminos Maxima, because at the end of doing that, before Vernon burst in, he got louder and said, Luminos Maxima!
And the cops called him, like, what's supposed to say?
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
It's not a really fun scene, in all honesty.
What part did we leave? What part did you leave off of the narration?
He had just left the Dursley's house with his trunk.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I was glad to finally see that, like, the fuck this shit I'm out. He's like, any place is better than here. It's like, yeah, you clearly have, like, a great support system, no matter, like, you're fucking Harry Potter. You could
go to the fucking Weasleys. Fuck the Dursleys. Let the Weasleys adopt you.
And the scene where, like, Marge, and then, like, he finally drops her, and he gets up, and he does the fucking Darth Vader, no!
I also cracked up when Harry leaves.
And you hear her scream in the distance. You see her floating over, like, London Tower.
Fucking the moonlight. I'm like, this is great. Oh, it's fucking great.
Oh, my gosh. All right. Continuing on here. He sits down on the edge of the road with his trunk. His surroundings stir as the wind picks up and a street lamp flickers above him. A jet black dog emerges from the bushes opposite, growling at him, and he raises his wand. At that instant, however, the eccentric night bus, my favorite wizarding vehicle of all time right here, for lost witches or wizards, makes a sharp appearance and escorts Harry on a wacky journey to the wizard's pub, the Leaky Cauldron. While there, Harry learns that Sirius Black, played by Gary Oldman, an alleged supporter of Voldemort, the Dark Wizard, has escaped from Azkaban prison. Harry must meet the Minister of Magic Cornelius Fudge, and he fears expulsion from Hogwarts for his using of underage magic out of school. However, the matter is surprisingly dropped as, quote, the Ministry doesn't send students to Azkaban for blowing up their aunts, end quote. I will leave it right there as we talk about this for a second.
Basically, going to go first this time?
Sure.
Or Heather?
Sure. So the first thing you notice, like, and it kind of like it continues to prove that this movie has a really good, or the director, I guess, or actually the entire cast has really good handle on atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
They pull off atmosphere in this really well. So like you get that, like, everything has like it's sheen with like the rain, and it's dark, and it feels like how I would imagine a cold night in England would look. So they do that really well. The night bus, like, honestly, this was an amazing thing too.
Fucking love the night bus. I'll go more into that when you're done.
And it goes from just the design of the night bus being a triple decker bus. It's very inherently English, but it's also weirder than the normal English that they have.
Yes.
Weird.
Everybody that is the whole casting of the people on the night bus. So it goes from the driver to the shrunken head to the bellboy or whatever the fuck he is. That, like, it's just the way that they, like, just find nothing wrong with what's happening. But I was like, what the fuck?
Dude, what you on the ground for?
Wow, this ride of my life.
Yeah, I love that. What you on the ground for? I fell. Well, what'd you fall for?
Some good dialogue choices with that. The night bus, the whole scene with the night bus is awesome because it shows like how they work within the real world, and fucking like everything in the Harry Potter world, it's dangerous as fuck.
Yes.
You don't even drive on the right side of the road. He's driving against traffic 99% of the time.
That's what your worry is, not like fucking squeezing in between two fucking.
But it's also, you'd feel like
stopping on a dime
like
to not hit the old lady.
I feel like there's some sort of like, I don't know how these guys are fucking asleep on the shower curtains going back and forth.
Keeps them quiet.
Yeah, it's wild. It seems like there's some sort of like spell to not have the motion sickness take effect to you, but like Harry Potter doesn't get it, so whatever. But going to the actual leaky cauldron, this doesn't look the same.
No.
As what I remember, but it looks better. Everything is visually better in this movie, so that's one thing. The Igor character,
Thomas.
Oh my god!
There's a moment when he's like, it just killed me.
It's right when the minister said that we don't send students to Azkaban for blowing up their ants, and that's when he started laughing.
I love when he looks at them, he just bows for some reason.
Yeah, it's like, okay, whatever.
Oh my god.
But the one thing I'll say too, and this goes on throughout this movie, there's a lot of like work being put into the background of every scene that also establishes that lived-in world, where it's not just empty space, or it's not just like one-on-one close-ups with like blurred background.
Yep.
They have things happening in the background that add to the magic of each scene.
Yeah, they do. They really, really do. And just before you go, Connor, real quick, I want to add in the difference between the book and the movie. In the book, at this point, even the Muggle news knows Sirius Black has escaped. And it's on the Muggle news that a serial killer and dangerous man has escaped from prison and is roaming the streets, so be on the lookout for him. And it's a picture of Sirius Black. They didn't add that aspect in for the movie. They made Harry find out through Stan Shuntpipe's newspaper for this. So that was one thing that was just like, I think it would have added more of the creep factor if just before the ant showed up. Like, literally a 2-second scene of seeing that news report on the TV and seeing the Dursleys standing around the TV to see it.
They have Dudley watching the TV, so it could have easily been put in.
Yeah.
In that scene, right?
Yeah, it could have been easily breaking news interrupting his program that he was watching at that moment.
I also want to say the casting of Sirius Black is fucking amazing.
Oh, God, yes. Gary Oldman does so well in everything he's put in.
Yeah.
That is another massive W as far as why this is one of my favorites. Just fucking fantastic. I will not shut up about the fucking bus. There is so... And now... Here's the thing, like, and I'm going to say this probably repeatedly throughout all these streams. What one of the things that really fascinates me is the creativity of the magic. Magic is before this, and to an extent, was generally like, okay, you can do these things, you can do that stuff, but like shit like the bus shows the creative forefront of like, hey, we're gonna do this thing. Like, oh, it's not just it's fucking magic, but there is like other aspects of it that make it creatively, either visually or like functionally. That's a fucking word. Um, Different and unique. So like, who the fuck in their right mind would have thought of like, hey, we're gonna have a magical 3-decker bus with a chandelier in here that goes fucking faster than the Flash. No muggles can fucking see it, and I did love the fact that it's like muggles will see it's like they don't fucking pay attention, and it's like, yeah, that's fucking a great point.
Exactly.
Um, and like Basement said, that the personality of it too, with like the bellboy who I made a note just used magic to get the case into the bus, but okay, instead of like trying to like
The struggling with
a
it,
visual
yeah.
gag. It
No,
was,
I get it.
but I
The shrunken head was hilarious, and then the fucking like the old man from like the Pixar movies being the one that fucking steers. It's just got so much character to something that's like so simple. I don't think we see the bus again in the series. I feel like we see it maybe
No.
one more time,
No, we don't see the bus
I
at all.
don't think we see it.
which is
I
a
think it
damn
might be
shame.
referred to at some point in time, but I don't think we see it.
With-
I wanted to say something before I forget, and it's in tune with what you're saying when you talked about the night bus. The first couple movies really felt like that. Oh, I got like how to do magic kit from the store.
Right.
A lot of the magic felt that way. Where now it's like like you said, the personality of it is. It's beyond just the simple rabbit out of a hat type shit that they kind went with in the first couple movies.
And they do that and they do that more with the classes, certain classes, which we'll get to. I mean, they started to get there with some of the botany stuff in the second one, with like the screaming, fucking,
the mandrake
oh my God,
plants.
I want to fucking snap those things next.
But honestly,
I agree about I agree about the what's the name of the place there? That was the cauldron.
Leaky cauldron.
leaky
Cauldron.
bumhole.
I agree. It does look visually better. I just loved how the minister of magic. By the way, just the whole concept of like adults really kind of suck in this world, and I just want to say this because it's one of those things where like it's a constant theme of like, oh, did you hear Sirius Black's escape? Yeah, why? Don't worry about it. Like, what is fucking like? What is with like? I gotta give, and this is the other note I have here. Papa Weasley, I give him the fucking credit to have the balls to pull Harry aside and be like, hey, you probably don't know and understand what the fuck's going on, so let me be the one to be nice enough to kind of like
Fill you in
explain
the
seriousness, but of the situation.
There seems to be, and this is something that is a theme throughout the Harry Potter story, like a certain naivety to the adults, or the willingness to turn a blind eye to everything, where they feel like stunted. Their growth almost feels slightly stunted. And if you're looking at it in like if you were to compare it to how like regular people would be, right? Everything I think growing up in the magical world has kind of made them in some ways naive is the best word I could use. Yeah. But it just seems like they're all like a bit more whimsical and don't take things as seriously as they should be, and it might be just because they have spells that can undo pretty much everything.
Right.
Yeah, but it's so polarizing because, as we'll get to, they either don't give enough of a shit or they give too much.
It is, and you know what? That's sometimes a problem with direction. I think the books do a lot better job of making like the movie has to be like, well, these are the traits of the character. We have to enforce those traits, and when you add those traits together, it becomes like it's not a full-fledged person.
Mm-hmm.
No, I get it. The Minister of Magic really kind of like. I mean, I get him because he's obviously doesn't have like a personal relationship to Harry, but like everyone's like, well, never you mind. It's like, dude, like fuck off. Like he has the cognitive ability to at least understand what the fuck's going on at this point in time. Like it's been 3 years where he's kind of adopted good enough of the magic world to understand what the fuck's going on, but Jesus, I don't know.
Also, I'm thinking that there's something missing here because in the books, I almost remember there being like more like the seedy element to him meeting the Minister of Magic in the Leaky Cauldron in like a back room. Mm-hmm. There was some other like more of a reason to just like the movies didn't really like bring it forward as much. It's like what the fuck is this even happening?
Yeah,
Unless there's
exactly.
something more to it. I feel like there was something more to it.
In the book, Dave, I'm pretty sure there was.
No, in the book, how the book starts, it doesn't start with Harry. It starts with Fudge meeting with the current Prime Minister of Great Britain to talk about Sirius Black. So,
Oh, yeah.
that's where that's where the third book starts. But
I think there's like a underlying, and all the people, the adults, are in on keeping Harry safe, but they do it in like it's not like
it's not
like
the
we're
most
getting shown.
conducive
No,
way.
because like Fudge bought all his books, so he doesn't have to go get them. So he's just gonna go from the Leaky Cauldron to school, and then while he's at school, it's like I can't sign those forms. I'm not your guardian. You have to stay here. There seems to be that happening in the background that they never really say to the audience.
yes. Yeah, that's the question that JP also brought forward. I mean, when it came to Arthur Weasley, and when it came to Dumbledore, it's like, didn't they know that Sirius didn't actually do it? Well, no. They had suspicions that he didn't do it, but they have to go off of the evidence that the Ministry put forward during that investigation. As we will get into it a little bit later in the story. But there's also a couple other little things with these scenes. Remember how you guys kept asking me about examples of magic without wands? The guy stirring the teacup?
Yeah.
And putting the chairs up on the tables when they closed?
Yep.
Just a wave of the hand? But also that guy sitting at that table, stirring this teacup with just twirling his finger around the spoon. Two things with him. Did you notice what book he was reading?
No.
Theory of Relativity. Theory of Relativity.
Huh.
He's reading a Muggle book about science. But also, he is also the lead singer of a very popular British band.
God, he looked like one of the Gallaghers to me. But you know what? Okay, so this is the way I always thought about things in the Harry Potter universe is you could do magic without a wand, but unless you were like super high level, the magic you did without a wand was like unconcentrated. Like the wand is a concentration point,
right?
So like when you do magic without a wand, the outcome might be, unless it's very simple, you don't know what the outcome will be, and that's kind of what happens in this movie, like with him blowing up his hand.
Kind of, yes.
I don't think he like meant to do that. It was just what kind of came out.
A wild outburst of like rage magic. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because like the part that always got me was like, and we'll see a lot more in the other stories, is Expelliarmus being like a constant thing, like de-arm, like to like unarm a witch.
But in this movie, it is fucking wildly different.
Oh yeah.
I know. That's why it's like. Well, it's like, okay, well then.
When we get to that scene, I got fucking.
There's so much to say. So much to say.
Oh, okay. Well, when we get there.
When we get there. All right, moving on here. While at the Leaky Cauldron, Harry also reconvenes with his two best friends, Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger, and the rest of the Weasley family. Mr. Arthur Weasley pulls Harry to one side to warn him about Sirius Black. He suggests that Harry needs to be cautious of Sirius Black due to his allegiance with Voldemort. He believes that Harry is the only thing which stands in the way of Voldemort returning to power, and that is on this premise that Sirius Black has escaped from Azkaban to find and kill Harry Potter. Harry, Ron, and Hermione board the train to Hogwarts, discovering in their compartment the sleeping Professor Remus Lupin, who is the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Harry airs his concerns about Black's escape and his possible objective to Ron and Hermione. Tension builds during their discussion, however, as the train is stopped on a bridge and the lights pop out in each cabin. Ron peers out of the window, concerned. There is something out there. The train is violently jolted. We'll get to that in a minute. And a great cold descends around them, ice creeping over the windows. In the corridor outside, a scary dark creature slowly appears, floating towards them. It opens the door to their cabin and begins to engage engage frighteningly with Harry, sucking at his whole body. The sleeping teacher suddenly awakes, stands up, and repels the creature with a very bright white light emanating from his wand. Harry faints. On his coming around, Lupin gives him chocolate to eat and explains that the creature is a Dementor, which drains happiness from anything it approaches. The Dementors ordinarily guard the wizard prison, the prison of Azkaban, but are out searching for the escapee Black and entered the train looking for him. Harry heard a woman screaming during the ordeal, but no one else heard it. We'll pause right there.
Oh, boy.
One thing that neither of you brought up either was the second new teacher that we're getting this year and the book that they have to use for this class, which was...
You were at the book part, but I have...
Oh my god, that hands down, best scene of a fucking school book ever in any fucking movie to exist.
The book is so ridiculous, man.
He steps on it.
Well, first of all, it's eating its own fucking pages.
Exactly.
I noticed that too. It's like, what is it chewing on?
Oh god.
Is it technically shedding?
Technically, yes.
On it, the tongue comes out.
I need to go off on a bit of a tangent, and I might be skipping a little bit ahead here.
Uh-huh.
And I know it's revealed later on from Dumbledore that he talks about, like, hey, because Sirius Black's escaped, we've hired the Dementors to guard the school.
No, they didn't hire them. We'll get into that when we get to that part more deeper, but he didn't hire them. It's different.
Either way, fucking so bad to do that. It is so fucking bad because they touted the Dementors as these very powerful, basically guardians. Fine, cool, whatever. But one, you're doing it with a bunch. You're doing it with a bunch of fucking idiotic kids. Let's be real here. We all see Neville. Number two, he escaped them. So why would you? Hey, you know those guards that like didn't successfully guard the guy that escaped? Let's put those exact same guards in a different location where we think he's gonna go. How do you think it's gonna fuck go?
Why would you hire mindless fucking
the success rate is
monsters to track somebody, and especially when they're just like seemingly ready to suck anybody off?
I would be like, hey, let's get the Secret Service who protected JFK for the next guy.
Didn't they have all these fucking Aurors? Where are they?
Right? But there is more. There is more to Black's escape and how he managed to do it. That is explained later on in the book. And when we get to that point, I will explain it further from what I remember from the book. But
right. Again, I understand that like he might have done something like specific or sneaky or tactic. But my point is that generally speaking, right, if they don't know the specifics on how he escaped, even to an extent maybe if they did, my point is that it looks horrible when it's like, oh man, he escaped Azkaban. So let's put those guards that he bypassed everywhere. You mean those things that he's able to bypass? Yeah. Okay, sure, that sounds like a great fucking idea. Like, you fucking idiots.
One other thing,
of course, Lupin's a dick.
One more thing to add on to this. In that scene where Harry first sees Hermione and Ron bickering back and forth because Hermione has finally found her familiar in Crookshanks, the orange cat, Scabbers has a bald spot. If you go back and look when Ron's holding Scabbers at that exact moment, you can see the very top of Scabbers' head is entirely bald.
There's a lot of obviously foreshadowing stuff that like having us seen and or read these things beforehand that you can a lot more easily pick up on now, which is just, you know, the advantage of us seeing it again. But like Scabbers clearly looks different for the twist coming up at the end.
This is one of the things I noted here was the animatronic rat that they give Ron is something to behold.
Oh yeah,
because they switch between like a real rat and an animatronic rat. And when they have the real rat, it like obviously yes, it looks like a real rat. But when it's animatronic, it like doubles in size.
Yeah, I noticed that too. As they do. God. But no, I just think Dementors are fucking extremely dangerous, and it's an extremely stupid move, personally speaking.
I agree with that. I did want to say because we're beyond this scene anyway, but this is something that I think is a real credit to the way that they made this movie. The scene where Ron's dad is talking to Harry about, Severus escaped, or not Severus, but fucking Sirius has escaped. God, they all have the same fucking names.
They are. They're so similar.
And he could have just pulled him aside to a corner and talked to him. Instead, this movie has him like slowly walk through the set, and people come up and sit down next to him, and he pulls them a bit away. That entire scene, he moves like 3 or 4 times. A bunch of different things are happening in the background that make it look more magical and real. And you have the poster up, no matter where they go, of him always being there.
Yep.
That's one of the best executed scenes in this movie for them.
God, yes.
For how it's shot, at least.
There's actually 2 scenes that I noted that were like that. That was one of them, because if you notice, what he's trying to do is it's a clever way, like you said, of like getting the scope of the cinematography. But what he's doing is he's moving away from people. If you notice that, like every time he's talking, somebody's like sitting close or like walking by. He's trying to have a private conversation, so he keeps relocating. But it's a clever way of doing it. There's another scene later on which we'll talk about that I think does a very good like transition like that, which we'll get to.
It's neat because though he's moving away, and every time he moves away, Sirius Black is still
right
in
there,
the frame,
yeah.
So they can never really get away from him, which is a theme for the movie, right? Which is really well done. I'm with you on the fucking Dementor shit. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and especially because they kind of like later on we kind of find out why Dementors went after Harry Potter, at least to an extent, why they went after Harry Potter. It still is kind of weird. But, like, they just fucking stop the train and get in there. Why? It looks like fucking death. Why is this thing around kids at all, ever?
Exactly. Why did the train... One, why did the train stop? 2, why is it that the train gets almost shoved off of its tracks when it's in the middle of a fucking bridge? And the conductor not do anything about that? And then you got these things roaming the halls, scaring the shit out of these kids. You know they're going to write home to their families. Like, Dementors were on the train today, Mom. What the hell?
Mom almost died. And love and chocolates.
I need more chocolate frogs. I need to collect my wizard cards.
It's between a combination of like these again, even I know we'll get into it. These things clearly failed. So let's say these fail the dangerous things and put them around kids. Winning thing. Let's do this.
The other thing too, though.
Stand by my icon on Discord right now.
This is another we can harp on about the fucking Dementors. That's more of like a storytelling problem, and I think it still existed in the books too, where it's not.
But really visually, they're fucking terrifying.
Visually, and for like the age group that's going to be watching this, or it's supposedly for, I'm like, man, you want to do horror for kids? There it is.
Yeah.
Follow that.
Right there, yeah.
That'll scare kids.
I mean, Wendy was watching it, and she jumped when she saw the Dementor for the first time, so...
They are frightening looking. Also,
oh, God, yeah.
I don't know what's actually said. When the Dementor starts sucking off Harry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while he's blacking out from it, all I hear is, therapy!
No, it's his mom screaming Harry.
Oh, God.
Close.
I knew it was his mom, but I heard therapy.
So, just the phrase, when the Dementors were sucking Harry off, I just heard the distance, therapy! Is a great...
I mean, it's more than that. The fucking Dementors are sucking off Harry, and the professor gets up, whips out his wand, and shoots a bunch of white juice.
He's not fucking sleeping. He's just like waiting. Like, you guys notice that? It's just like, now. Like, you're gonna wait till Harry.
I love the answer.
Off.
I love the answer to fucking gigantic creatures that suck you off is to shoot white liquid at them.
Oh, I was gonna say chocolate, but okay.
No, chocolate comes after.
Makes sense.
Chocolate comes after. Oh my lord! All right.
It's ectoplasm.
Okay, everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much. Continuing on here. As Harry begins his 3rd year at Hogwarts, we learn of some significant changes. Alongside the official announcement of the formerly encountered new defense against the dark arts teacher, Professor Lupin, Rubius Hagrid, the groundsman, becomes additionally the professor of care of magical creatures. I love how the retiring teacher's phrase of wanting to retire was he wanted to celebrate the rest of his life with his remaining limbs. Also, Also, Hermione seems to be taking nearly twice as many classes as everyone else, including some which are taught simultaneously. That's going to be a fun little thing when we get there. During a divination class, Professor Trelawney foresees Harry's death in the leaves of his teacup, which form the shape of a grim or large dog. In tea leaf reading, this symbolizes death. In Hagrid's first class, Draco Malfoy deliberately provokes Buckbeak, a hippogriff, into attacking and injuring him. Draco's father, Lucius Malfoy, a powerful Ministry of Magic member of staff, files an official complaint. We'll pause it right there.
So I think I just want to like kind of quickly mention the obvious change in casting. This is the first time we see Michael
the new
Gambon
Dumbledore, yes.
Yep, as the new Dumbledore. And it's funny, Heather, when you said that like he doesn't quite capture the same presence of previous actor, who I absolutely like here. It really drives it home.
This is where you feel it the most in the third movie, just because of the change. I do grow to really like him in the character. Yeah. It's just like, man, when you compare him to there's like there's a mysticism to Richard Harris's performance. This guy Michael Gambon doesn't get it at the beginning, and it really seems like he's somebody that doesn't understand the source material.
Gambon's a bit more, in my opinion, Gambon's a bit more flamboyant, for lack of a better word. Like he's more like, he has more personality behind him, where Richard Harris had this like quiet, calm demeanor, almost like a stone statue. Where like that, at least that's the way. And I'm not saying that like he was like fucking like he couldn't act. He was a good actor, but there was like this like calm, quiet somberness to him that I appreciated from the role.
It's just it's the way that he delivered his lines. Yeah. Just screamed Dumbledore from the books to me.
Yes.
Now, physically and like eventually, I think Gambon does a very good job. Eventually, he has a couple missteps, but he does do a really good job, especially later, like later on in like the fifth or sixth movie.
I was about to say, I'm jumping ahead a little bit too much, but I think that in particularly the fifth, maybe the sixth ones are probably some of his finest stuff. The fourth one I just laugh at because of which we'll get to. Just start screaming. But
I do feel like though the change was like, I mean, it happened because the guy passed away. I think it almost was like a necessary change because of how much more use they get out of Dumbledore's character.
Yes.
You need someone a bit more physical, especially later on, where I don't think even if he was still alive, he was pretty fucking decrepit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, fucking Richard Harris, as wonderful of an actor as he was a bit too up there in age to be able to handle the role of Dumbledore for the later movies either way.
I mean, if you take him like 15 years before his death, he would be perfect. He's the perfect Dumbledore in my mind. It's just he couldn't really, obviously, with his age. What the fuck part were we at? No, we went through a lot, actually.
I'm sorry?
We went through a lot, right? Like we
got the introduction of the new teachers and divination class and Hagrid's first class as the professor of care of magical creatures.
So I will say, like, this is the first time we kind of see, well, we don't see them, but the carriages move themselves up the walkway, hinting at the Thestrals. So they did include that.
Yes.
At this point, did you guys? Okay, so when they get there's a couple of things. There's a choir singing. When did they fucking practice this shit? The school year just started.
Honestly, they were probably told to practice it over the summer.
I felt they were very flat. They kind of croaked.
But other than that, the little midget conductor, it looked like a penis.
Half of them do.
We had the fucking mushroom tip hair.
Yeah.
It was killing me. That's all I could look at.
We did go over a little bit of the tea leaf reading, right?
Yes, that was divination class.
I just don't... Why?
Well, it's part of magic.
No, I get it, but like story-wise, just like was it just like a little bit like... I'm fine with like little bits of the class. Oh, that was the other note too. Just me. These classes really fucking short.
They are.
Well, you're not going to sit through an hour.
I get it, it's a movie, and I get that, but like at
Yeah.
the same time, it's just like, all right, we did 3 things and we're done.
This is a fun. It's kind of like an Easter egg, I guess. When they show the Trelawney's class, first of all, I like the casting, perfect casting for her.
Oh yeah,
character.
Emma Thompson.
The class is such a fucking one of those ones you take to get a cheap credit.
Yes.
But there is like it does. They do end up showing merit to her character. She's someone that like unconsciously predicts shit, but then she's bought into that mysticism entirely without really knowing what the fuck she's talking about. So everything is a sign.
Yes.
And this is why it's funny later on when she gets kind of like the axe, and it's like, well, the writing was on the wall.
Yeah, it kind of was.
But that was a neat scene. I did the other thing I do have here, especially when it comes to them showing Hagrid's class and Buckbeak. The CGI in this movie is better than the new Marvel fucking TV show.
Yes, except for a couple of parts. Except for a
here.
couple of parts where when Harry is riding Buckbeak. But the CGI immensely improved with this movie.
Which helped a lot with the even that scene where he's spinning the cup with the fucking.
Yes.
Yeah, that was CGI too. So they input that throughout, and it kind of looks pretty fucking damn good.
Yeah, it looks like it's actually happening versus video game blob moving.
Now I kind of thought about this too. Not that I'm trying to fucking defend any bad CGI from the Marvel side of things. I know it's bad too, but I think a big reason that some of the CGI stuff is as good as it is also the kind of theme and motif that they do for Harry with this old colonial English look. I'm not saying it's every single scene or every single character, every single moment, but I think the environments that they're in with the old colonial look to it kind of helps with the blending and the immersion of the suspension.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to compare it to something like She-Hulk, where it's a big green woman in a lawyer's office, it's gonna stand out no matter what, right? Yeah. Where this is there's the forest aspect. Plus, they're melding together a couple real animals, so they do have something to build it on. Exactly. It's not completely out of left field. Like MODOK, for instance, a stretched face and a little body, and looks all fucking weird. One question: where the fuck did Malfoy's a piece of shit, right?
Yes.
Where the fuck did he get a Granny Smith apple from randomly?
Stole it off of somebody's. He stole it out of somebody's bag for lunch.
Oh my god!
That's when you knew he was a fucking cunt. Just shows up eating Granny Smith randomly.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's your biggest gripe with him? He's a cunt because he has an apple?
No, but he's also, his acting is better than the rest, and it's because I think he's older.
Yeah.
I think he's older. I'm almost 100% certain.
I think he's a couple months older here. Hold on.
I did make a note here about Malfoy that, he's a dick, great, but, even some of his dickish behavior just doesn't make sense.
It's I don't understand, but, he's a bully that's got put in his place and still remains a bully.
Well, which is fine, but it just makes it oh, you're stupid. I'm not stupid. Did you just say I'm not stupid? Stupid? What the fuck? What are we doing here? This?
Yeah, it's just Malfoy is one of the biggest missed opportunities in these movies.
Oh, fuck yes.
He's gonna get better. I know that.
No, but even when he gets more prominent. It's still for me it's hugely missed. He had a very interesting arc that never really comes together.
Tom Felton is 2 years older than Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah, I knew he was older, and it kind of shows with the acting, but the acting isn't better across the board in this movie.
Well, he showed his prowess with acting in the second movie, because that scene with him and Crabbe and Goyle being Harry Potter and Ron Weasley. When he turned to that one after he said, I was reading, because he had to take the glasses off yet. He was supposed to have a different line in that scene, but Tom Felton forgot that line and just on the spot improvised. I didn't know you could read.
Huh. Goddamn.
Yeah.
No, he is a good actor. It just like I said, it's more the writing of anything else. It's just what you're still a characteristic cartoon villain bully dick.
I also don't get the scene with Dumbledore in the main hall, where it's like, we're gonna be host to the Dementors. First of all, what the fuck? Dumbledore is also like he's like the most powerful, but like the biggest bitch on the fucking planet, and it's like hey, we're gonna be host to the Dementors. Don't do anything to make them kill you. What?
Well, that's unfortunate. Yes, Dumbledore is the most powerful wizard because of the fact that he has the Elder Wand, which we will get into in later movies as to the significance of the Elder Wand. He still has to follow wizarding laws, and unfortunately, with this situation, the Ministry of Magic wants the Dementors there to try and find Sirius Black as fast as possible. And they thinking that he's going to be going after Harry Potter, first logical thing is he's going to go to the school.
Like, in my mind, this is like, the problem I have with the Dementors is they've already proven they're going after kids before they even get to the school.
Yes.
So, like, that to be like, yes, stick around.
Yeah, I agree. The Dumbledore should have sat there and said, "No, you're not putting them at my school. They attacked my fucking train.
Start the school year."
Yeah.
It's literally the definition of fuck around and find out.
Essentially, yeah.
The more you fuck around, the more you'll find out.
But that is one thing also with Michael Gambon that he continued on from Richard Harris when he was putting those important tidbits out, like, do not give them a reason to attack you. You notice his eyes went to one particular spot, and then the camera cuts to Harry. That was one thing that Richard Harris always did as Dumbledore as well. Whenever it was something important like that, he looked directly at Harry.
The apple of my eye.
Didn't move, but
and I was like, fuck the rest of you. I've got my favorite.
I can't imagine anyone will give any Dementor a reason to attack them. What did I do? I didn't even know what a Dementor was until 20 minutes ago.
Right. All right.
Give all the kids guns. I put that as a note too. They'll solve everything.
Now we get to moving on now to the fun class, which, yeah.
Sex ed?
Yeah. In defense against the dark arts, Professor Lupin instructs the class in the defeat of a boggart, which changes its form to appear as one's greatest fear. When Harry steps up, it manifests itself as a Dementor. However, Lupin sets in to defeat it before Harry gets the chance. We're going to pause it there because that is actually a pretty big scene. And it also had questions from JP, which I don't really have an answer for aside from, as we noticed with this, that the boggarts can also have the same powers as the things that they copy. As we learn later on. But with this, going through it, I mean, the very first one he pulls up is poor Neville.
I made a note here that I'm loving Neville more. And I know what happens.
Yes.
I know, yes. But regardless, it doesn't take away my appreciation of it in every single movie. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, he pulls up poor Neville and asks Neville, "What is your greatest fear? What scares you the most?" And he says Professor Snape, which Remus laughs at, of course, as does the rest of the class. And he's just staring. And I recall you live with your grandmother, correct? Yeah, I don't want him to turn into that either. Fucking poor Neville and the crap he's been through. Oh my god. But then...
Why did the Dementors go after him?
Right? And then fucking, at the end, Alan Rickman being the hero of this scene and cross-dressing as Neville's grandmother. It's fucking brilliant.
Before we get that real fast, I did make a note here. Neville is the Butters of Harry Potter.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he very much is.
Until the last two movies.
Yeah, well, even Butters has his moments. Okay, so the boggart. So the idea that I actually... There's a couple of things I like about this scene. First of all, I love the idea of the creature.
Yes.
I think it's a very intriguing plot device, specifically when we get to the very end of the boggart with Lupin stepping in to protect Harry. I thought that was very, very, very fucking clever foreshadowing.
Oh, yes.
I had questions about the boggart. Like, what's the extent to what it can turn into? Because what if some kid has some fucking twisted shit going on?
It's whatever you are most afraid of. That's what it will turn into.
It turns into someone's uncle with a gigantic erection.
Sure.
Uncle Willie.
Also, another
May not be appropriate for school.
Another interesting fact is there is only one person alive in the Harry Potter universe that has actually seen the true form of a boggart. And we'll meet him later on.
But how does he know if it's the true form?
Because of his certain magical friend.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't know. Now I want to know what they look like.
Yeah, no shit.
Alright. But yes, the foreshadowing there with the Remus Lupin being afraid of full moon is huge foreshadowing that skipped over a lot of people's heads.
I like how the book does it a lot better than the movie. It's a bit more less obvious in the book.
Hermione's
like
was the best.
A white ball or something instead of like the exact moon.
Yeah.
A wet ball.
No, a white ball.
They said wet ball. I'm like, what?
It just turns into a wet bomb.
Why is it wet?
No, but in the book, Hermione's fear is the best one. It's just Professor McGonagall coming out of the closet with this giant scroll saying, "You failed this, you failed that, you failed this. You're never going to amount to anything as a wizard."
I would have loved to have seen that personally, but yeah.
All right, moving on. Harry is...
Also, what the fuck was with that clown? Sorry.
Oh, that was...
Terrible choice.
No, it wasn't. That wasn't a fear. That was the snake being turned into a clown from Pavarti.
Yeah,
I'll take the snake.
She turned it into like a more terrifying.
I know.
I'll take the snake.
Oh, excuse me. All right. Harry's.
Send you an image.
Yeah,
what a
Harry's
boggart actually looks like. It's terrible.
I'm sure it is, as most of those
it's not
creatures
what it
are.
actually looks like. It's just some kid's drawing.
I'll Google it.
No, I sent it to you on Twitter.
Oh, no. All right. Harry is told he can't go on the school outings to Hogsmeade, a local village inhabited solely by magical beings, as he hasn't got his admission slip signed and watches his friends go without him. Instead, he meets with Lupin, and Harry discovers that the reason he wasn't allowed to fight the boggart was that Lupin had been worried it would take the shape of Voldemort. This concern catches Harry by surprise, because Harry had been thinking even more fearfully about the Dementors. Later that night, Sirius Black breaks into Hogwarts and destroys the Fat Lady's portrait and that guards Gryffindor Tower. There's a little Easter egg with this part too, and the parts before it. Where was it? The students spend the night sleeping in the Great Hall while the teachers search the castle for Black. Because Black is believed at large in the castle, Dementors are sent specifically to patrol the perimeter of Hogwarts. Next day, Professor Snape replaces Lupin as Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, while Lupin is intriguingly incapable of teaching at the present time. In an odd divergence from routine, he teaches the class about werewolves. And we'll pause there.
394.
5 points from Gryffindor.
Yeah, what the fuck was him like? Fucking twat. For some reason, I put a note here that the whole idea of like him missing the Hogsmeade trip, so that he could catch up with Lupin, I thought was kind of a bit of I kind of enjoyed that, to be honest with you. Like, it's a little bit of like a divergence, because you think like, oh, Harry's just gonna always go to fucking whatever they're doing, and it was not that big a deal, but for some reason I noted that like it was a bit refreshing. And I think this is kind of for me where like things change up a little bit of like, oh, it's not the stereotypical like we might have the same fucking like. I felt to an extent I felt like 1 and 2 had very similar plot tropes of like then this, just like the fucking Marvel movies. They do this, and 3 broke the cycle for me in this particular scene. I made a note of that. I said like something about the way this was handled, where it's like, no, Harry didn't go to the fucking field trip and instead caught up with Lupin, and it just also made me enjoy the Lupin character a little bit more, or like favorite.
Yeah, it definitely showed you more of the actual personality behind the professor.
It's also good to finally hear someone that knew his parents talk about his parents and talk about them in a good light.
Yes.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's one of those things where like this scene is so important for the character of Harry to become more than just a opportunity for self insert to the world. This is where he kind of like starts to become an actual character.
Yes.
Outside of being like the entry point for the world for the audience.
Yes.
And
Also, there was like an echo when Lupin was talking. I'm like, what the fuck? It sounds like he's in a hallway speaking.
Well, when they were first talking, they were on the bridge, so there would be an echo. Because it is a covered bridge.
No, there's something 1 trillion holes in that motherfucker.
There'd still be an echo because of the roof.
Yeah.
I don't know. He was speaking outside. Whatever.
No, but the little Easter egg in this with the fat lady, and a couple other times, you see in the background the White Knight. I forget his name, but he's mentioned quite a bit in the book as going from painting to painting to painting to painting to painting. It doesn't matter where in the castle it is, you'll always find this knight.
I actually had a note about that too, where like I thought the paintings were, at least in this use, was very clever.
Yes.
Yeah, there was, first of all, the amount of them was amped up, and they all intertwine. You see a giraffe going through the entire scene. Some people stay in the one frame, and like the way that visually, this is again the background of every scene.
Yes.
Reinforces the magical nature of the movie, which really helps it. Also, the fat lady was great.
Oh fuck, she was so much better than the first one they had. Oh my god. And also with the paintings as well, when Dumbledore comes up and asks Argus to have the teacher start searching all the paintings, or have the ghosts search all the paintings, Argus Phillips turns around. We don't have to. She's right there. You can see in the paintings even they're all like, oh, right there.
They're all part of the scene, even though they're like. And I was almost kind of curious as to what the paintings actually are. Are they like a frame, kind of like a framed moment in someone's life that is put on there that still has enough personality to act like them?
But the fact they're able to jump paintings though.
In the book it happens all the time too.
Yes,
and even alluded to it, but the card game thing. We said, I've got Dumbledore. Well, you can't expect him to be
there all the time. Yes, with the former headmaster paintings, I know from explanation that the headmasters in charge teach their paintings their personalities, so that they can carry on those personalities in their daily routines within the painting. And that they're used as early warning systems. And that those magical painting systems are set up all over the Wizarding world, and partially in the Muggle world as well. Because of needing that communication for those that in the Muggle world that know about the Wizarding world to help keep it protected. Or again, to keep the Muggle world protected.
Idea. Yeah. A better use of an idea that was established already, but they explain it a bit more, show it a bit more, and this, after us talking about the night bus, then you see how they're using the paintings. It's just much more than the, like I said before, much more than, over-counter wizarding kit that you buy at a fucking joke shop or whatever.
Exactly.
Or the learn wizarding.
Yeah.
Learn magic through the Daily Prophet, like Argus was trying to do. Yeah. Which, as we get to that point, which is coming up very soon, I will explain more about where they kind of switch to things with the book and the movie.
Before you go on, I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I also found it weird that, though they want to protect, I think there's this theme of them trying to protect Harry Potter because they know that Sirius Black has connections to Harry Potter. Right. They don't know necessarily that he's going after him, but it's very much a possibility. Mm-hmm. So much so that they're, kind of planning things. When he shows up, or, the fat lady says, oh, he slashed my picture. And the answer is to keep him at the school where we last seen Sirius Black.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to know how she knew what he looked like.
Yeah, she's like, it was Sirius Black.
Eyes as soulless as they say.
It was black dog that scratched her, not a person, right? Like that. I
In
don't
the
know. Like
book,
the
they
cuts
never.
were weird.
In the book, they allude to it being him being in the dog form,
Dog form.
but it's never really.
Well, it could have been what's his face.
It could have been Lupin,
going
yeah.
wild.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because he was the night before, he was indeed a werewolf.
It's just saying.
That would make a lot more sense.
Yeah, because he's
That's
in
the
the
way I
school
interpret
already, and well. But yeah, it's never really confirmed either way if it was actually Sirius Black in his human form or his dog form, or it could have been Remus Lupin as the werewolf. So.
We shall never know.
Yes, it's never been confirmed.
Fucking A.
Alright, moving on here. Connor's favorite part here. During the next school Quidditch match, a popular wizard sport, several Dementors approach and try to engage their powers over Harry, causing him to faint and fall off his broomstick. Dumbledore breaks Harry's fall, but his broomstick flies off into the magical tree, the Whomping Willow, and is destroyed. Dumbledore is angry that the Dementors came within school grounds as they were prohibited from doing so. Harry wonders why the Dementors seem to have a special interest in him, and Lupin reveals that this is due to the horrors within Harry's past. Harry considers that he needs to know how to defend himself against them and convinces Lupin as such, who agrees to teach him. We'll pause it right there.
He should be dead.
Yes, he should be. But this is also a part where the Whomping Willow comes back into play. And, I mean, this just glosses over it. He's chasing this snitch, and it's in the middle of a giant rainstorm. One broom is hit by lightning and catches on fire. And then you have another guy who gets frozen and then electrocuted as he's flying up to try and get the snitch.
Sure. That guy was like, did that man just get electrocuted? He's dead immediately.
Oh my god, just stop everything.
Like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And not to mention, Harry
is my favorite.
Harry is flying all the way up into the fucking atmosphere, thinnest part of the atmosphere for human beings to begin with, so that alone should have killed him.
Yep.
Visually, this is my favorite Quidditch scene. It's also short. Some of the Quidditch stuff.
Quidditch.
Yeah, but like some of the Quidditch stuff in the past was a bit too much to get to where they wanted to get. It's always kind of Quidditch is not used to show Quidditch, just to show storyline.
Yes.
And this does that very well, and also looks a lot better. We don't have the rubbery graphics anymore. Everything looks much better. I don't think we get too much Quidditch after this. In all honesty, we get the World Cup, but you don't get to see that. So.
Oh, they show parts of the World Cup while they're talking, but I don't.
Oh, you get the
there's
Ron stuff.
There's one more school Quidditch match that they show, but then after that, nothing on Quidditch.
Yeah. This one, I think is a really interesting scene visually.
Yeah.
Again, everybody's dead, and you do have Dumbledore cast magic without a wand.
Yes.
Yep.
So there's a couple things that happen. Also, this is the second attack on the same fucking kid. Get these fucking things at the school.
No, but and Lupin does bring up the point that Harry has had such traumatic happenings in his past that it would make sense for the Dementors to be drawn to him because of the fact that he has so much sadness within him.
Neville.
And they should be attacking Neville too, yes, absolutely. But Neville's not in their vicinity.
Any adults, maybe.
Oh, shit.
But for those of you who don't know, because none of the movies explain it, Neville's parents were actually tortured to the point of being clinically insane by the the Cruciatus curse by Death Eaters. So that's why Neville is living with his grandparents. So.
Oh yeah.
I think the movies end up saying that the Bellatrix Lestrange did that and then killed them. In the movies, it alludes to them being killed.
Yes, but they're in the books. They're at St. Margus or something like that church, hospital for wizards and witches.
Honestly, Neville, I remember reading the books. Neville. I remember this big theory of Neville basically being Harry Potter. He could have very easily been. Yes. but it just didn't shake out that way. And Neville's character is one of the most interesting characters in the fucking in the books, and eventually kind of in the movies, but they don't give enough time, I don't think.
No, they don't. They really don't. He deserves so much more. I mean, especially with the next movie coming up, how much he blossoms in that movie alone. So,
Yeah.
This is where it starts to get really fun now too, because Lupin has agreed to teach Harry the Expecto Patronum spell so that he can learn to cast his own Patronus. But he tells him he has to wait until after the holidays so he can rest up, which is another foreshadow for what he actually is. Excuse me. Yeah. All right, now, moving on. At the time of the next school outing, still keen to go to Hogwarts, Harry attempts to sneak into the village under his invisibility cloak, but is caught by Fred and George Weasley, who gave him the Marauders map. There's going to be an Easter egg about this. It is a map of the entire school and shows the real-time locations of everyone on the grounds. Fred and George also tell Harry that the map shows the whereabouts of several secret passages out of Hogwarts, ideal for leaving undetected. Once in Hogsmeade Village and back under his invisibility cloak, Harry catches sight of the Minister Fudge and his... Of the Minister Fudge? Oh, God, of the...
Minister Fudge. I want some of that forbidden fudge.
Some of the grammar in this, Jesus. Sight of the Minister Fudge and Professor Minerva McGonagall chatting in the street, discussing Black and himself. He follows them as they go inside and is shocked to overhear that Sirius Black was his parents' best friend and is still his godfather and a legal guardian. Black supposedly divulged the Potter's secret whereabouts to Lord Voldemort and murdered their friend Peter Pettigrew, as well as 12 Muggle bystanders. Harry vows to kill Black. We're going to pause it right there because that's a lot to go over. And the Easter egg. Fred and George mentioned in the movie that they had found the Marauders map in Filch's office first year during detention. Now, going back to, I think it was the second movie, where Argus Filch dropped that piece of paper where he's trying to learn magic. It was actually Fred and George who discovered that piece of paper and all the other ones of all the different classes he was trying to take. And for those of you who don't know, Argus Filch is a squib. He's born to a magic family but does not have any magical powers of his own.
Squib.
Right.
There's actually a few things I wanted to note about this. First and foremost, this made me fall in love with the twins.
Oh, God, yes.
I know, I don't know what it was about this scene, them helping Harry. But I mean, it should have been when they fucking, kidnapped the buggy and fucking ripped off his window in the last movie. Something about this one. I love the idea of the Marauders map, which is basically just a fucking, I put Call of Duty map. Because that's exactly what I fucking thought of it. I'm like, oh, it's Call of Duty map. I also love the I solemnly swear I'm up to no good. Like it's purposely like a mischievous item. And I'm kind of torn about the idea of the invisibility cloak being used for exposition. Like it feels like a clever way, but it also feels like a lazy. I don't know. Maybe I'm on the fence about that one.
You mean like them noticing the footprints that he was trying to use it to get to Hogsmeade or whatever?
And figuring out that was him trying to sneak out.
Well, like him eavesdropping on, conversations where it's like, oh, didn't you hear? And then tells everything that they already know.
Oh, yeah, I know. Okay, yeah. I mean, there's ways to do it. I guess the one thing I do enjoy is that they keep it relevant by showcasing it. But, and that's like one of the only items that fucking Harry Potter does this with. But at the same time, it's like, it just so happens that I have I don't really dislike it for exposition purposes, but it's definitely...
I'm torn. Yeah, it feels a little off.
It's not really off, because it does happen in the book as well.
At least there's purpose for it being there.
Yeah, it's not a scene that's out of position.
Maybe it's different. I feel like in the books, I had absolutely no problem with this because he was trying to use the invisibility cloak to get to a place and remain unseen, and just so happens to like catch something weird happening with people meeting and joins in there with it.
Well, it's because while they
mention
mention while they're still outside that Sirius Black, and it's like you want to know more? Let's get inside where there's less ears. So they having that mentioned outside is what helps bring Harry in and follow them up.
Also, were they like just out in the open in the place they shouldn't have been?
No, that's all part of Hogsmeade.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. I was like, what the fuck? I was a little confused about that part. So, but no, I'm not against it. It felt a little off.
I guess it's. I can understand that because it's kind of he uses like a catch-all or a MacGuffin type thing to get what the information that he wants. I mean, in the end, that's the way that cloak is used throughout the entirety of the show. When you're in the movie, when you see it, even in the first time he gets it, he uses it to get to the library,
the restricted
to get
section.
what he wants. But it's very much like when I need this, I can use this. Like it's very convenient, let's just say.
Yes.
The one thing that I have to pinpoint, and it has no real bearing on the storyline. This is probably the only Harry Potter movie that does seasonal transitions really fucking well.
The one beat me to it. God damn it.
The changing of the seasons. Yes.
The winter one.
The winter one was great with the owl or bird or whatever.
Yep.
Yes.
And the fall one was great with the Whomping Willow.
The Whomping Willow was even used in the transition to the winter because that's one of the things I brought up to JP while watching it. It's like I never noticed it before, but when it shakes off the snow, you get the splashes of ice on the camera lens.
Yep.
Yeah, the transitional scenes for the seasons changing are great. Does anybody else see fucking like I looked at Malfoy shows up in this fucking shit. What the fuck kind of hat is this man wearing? He's got like the raccoon hat, but there's also like a secret baseball cap underneath it.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
Since you're bringing that up, we can go back a little further. There's many people out there who think Harry stole the lollipop from Neville. Well, no. If he had stole it, his hand would be visible from outside of the cloak. The lollipop got stuck on his cloak. Yeah, it got stuck on his cloak. And
my god. Forever I thought he stole the fucking lollipop.
No, because you remember in that first movie when he first got it, when he first got the cloak and he was using the lantern. If he brought the lantern inside the cloak, the light would not emanate.
You could have the cloak on your hand when you grasp something, right?
What?
Not comfortably.
Well, he wouldn't be eating it, so it doesn't really make sense for him to grasp it anyway.
Right. But it got stuck on his cloak and it carried out that way. So...
There's a scene that I hope JP loved in this part when he gets upset after he learns he's godparent or whatever. Harry Potter in his cloak runs out and just plows into a bunch of midgets singing.
Yeah. I think that was
douchebag.
At that point, I think JP was in here watching wrestling, so I don't think he saw that part. But I know he would love it if he saw it. But yes, also in that scene, finding out that Sirius Black was indeed his godfather, and that he still supposedly not only killed his parents, but also poor Peter Pettigrew and 12 Muggles on a street somewhere, in an alleyway somewhere in London.
You know what I think it is, Connor? I think it's not so much the invisibility cloak. It's the scene, the exposition in that scene is pretty poorly handled. It's just like verbal diarrhea of everything you need to know right now.
Which I that's why I'm torn. Like on one hand, I think it's clever because it's a way for Harry to know what's going on. Because God forbid, fucking anybody outside of the fucking Weasleys tell them what the fuck, and Hagrid tell them what the fuck is going on. But second,
with Hagrid, it's always accidental, because if you remember, the second half of the movie was I shouldn't have said that theme.
Yeah, that was kind of terrible too, but it was more forgivable because the movie was geared towards really young kids. Mm-hmm. This one, however, is like just everything you need to know I'm going to say right now conveniently, and it didn't really seem like that. Yeah, it was okay. on a very low level, it was natural conversation, but
I'm
was
nitpicking. I want to just be very clear that I am nitpicking.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is the thing I said to Heather before you got into the call, Connor. I'm like, man, I was taking notes for this movie, and then I just stopped because I don't really have a lot to complain about. After a certain point, it's just I'm gonna watch it and fuck this because trying to look at it as I looked at the other two movies just doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah, you got that right.
Anything else you want to add, Connor, before I move on?
Nah, I want invisibility cloak. I was jealous.
And if you get that invisibility cloak, I'm gonna expose all over you.
Oh my god, expect a Patrona!
I swear that's the ejaculation spell. It's killing me. And then you have to yell it and point your wand, and you just fucking unload.
Oh my god.
It's clue goo. Moving on.
Yeah. On returning from the outing, we find out that from Hagrid that as a consequence of Lucius Malfoy's complaint, Buckbeak has been sentenced to death. The same night, that same night, after hours, Harry is astonished when he sees the aforementioned Peter Pettigrew's name on the Marauders' map. He goes looking for him but can't find him. After Professor Snape discovers Harry out of bed, the map is confiscated by Lupin, who meets them and is in covering for Harry, tells Snape it is merely a joke parchment of no significance. I'm going to pause right there because also one other it's a quick pause. Another little Easter egg with the Marauders map. Remember the names that were on it?
Yeah. Padfoot, Prongs.
Padfoot, Mooney,
people,
Prongs, and Wormtail or something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the four that...
It's the four boys. James, Sirius, Remus, and Peter.
Oh, for God's sake.
But they do drop the ball in this movie because I remember the book explaining that they used, because he unfortunately got turned into a werewolf, they became animaguses to hang out with him
at the time that he is in that current state, yes. Which is also, which they skipped over here, the reason for not only the Shrieking Shack, but also the Whomping Willow.
Wait, because of them?
Because of Remus Lupin.
Of course. Yeah, okay then.
Dumbledore, as headmaster at that time, did not want Lupin to miss out on being able to still be a wizard and fine-tune his craft. So they found the abandoned house. They built a tunnel underneath where the Whomping Willow is, as we find out later on in this movie, so that during that time, just that once a month, just before the full moon, Lupin could go there and be trapped in that house during that night of the full moon and still be able to get his werewolf aggressions out, which is why it's called the Shrieking Shack.
Yeah, that's why they're like, it's the most haunted shack. In the books, they allude to him. Yeah, he's shackled in there and he makes a bunch of fucking noise.
And the Whomping Willow was planted there to prevent people from finding the tunnel and entering it and ending up meeting their doom.
But also it's like, we don't want them to find this tunnel because they'll meet their doom. So we're going to plant a tree that will kill them if they come near.
Right.
As you do.
So, and of course, if you notice with the four boys, there is some similarities between Ron, Fred, George, and Harry for the Marauders map as well.
Wait, say it one more time.
There is similarities of the four boys, James, Remus, Sirius, and Peter, hanging around. You also have, because of later on becoming all members of the Quidditch team, Ron, Fred, George, and Harry.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
Also, it's like the perfect item for the twins to have.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely, man. That's how they avoid so much trouble. Between that and befriending Peeves. So moving on here, Harry has. Okay, this sentence almost did not make any grammatical sense to me whatsoever. Harry has the agreed private class with Lupin in which he must generate a Patronus, a shield that is used to repel the Dementors. Lupin has him test himself out on a boggart. He fails the first time, but conjures one on his second attempt. Later on, returning to a recently finished divinations class to bring back a crystal ball knocked over by Hermione, Harry re-encounters Professor Trelawney. She grabs Harry by the shoulder, speaks as though possessed, and predicts that the Dark Lord's servant will return to him that night and that the innocent blood shall be spilled. Whew.
So Trelawney is like the reason I was like kind of like about her was like, okay, if she's used to like kind of hype up the coming threat and looming danger, then fine, okay, cool. But other than that, but I do agree on the casting choice. I think she's a fucking fantastic actress. But as far as the point of her class, other than just being like the shit's coming, story wise, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I do like her character. It's such a like the character to me is kind of funny because she is legit, yet she has no idea she's legit. Right. And she acts like a fucking fraud 99% of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is what pissed Hermione off so much because she, in that scene, she looks in the cup and she looks into the crystal ball and says, "The Grim." And Trelawney, with offhandedness as her mind is, and, "Oh, my dear child, your wit and skill for this class are as dried as the books you read." It's just like, oh damn, she got roasted.
Yeah, I know. Fucking...
And then for her to sit there, oh wait, did I say something? As Hermione's leaving the class and knocks the crystal ball off the stand. What they also don't mention is Harry looking into the crystal ball and seeing the face of Sirius Black, whispering his name.
But it's a great... Okay, Hermione leaving this class makes perfect sense for her character too, because she is very much like based in the real. So when something takes like a gap of logic to accept, she does not accept it.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that I wish they would have done, even just one scene of where she's in the common room talking with them about what's going on with Sirius Black and all of this other goings-ons that's happening. Just to see the mountain of homework she has because of expressing how many classes she is taking that year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that. I wrote here, Lupin keeps feeding kids chocolate while teaching how to shoot white loads at a swan.
You wrote that?
I don't know, it's a piece of art, isn't it?
It is, but... yeah, I enjoy him getting that private lesson because it's also showing that this teacher cares a bit more about Harry's protection.
A stand-in fatherish figure with him at this point, yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things of, I feel if Lupin had continued being the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, it would have been better for Harry if this were like the real scenario. But I feel he was also one of the best teachers to have ever been in the line of teachers that we have been shown. The only other one being even more better would be McGonagall.
Yeah. But I agree with you. I agree with you that like this, like Lupin's kind of one of the reasons why I feel like this series is starting to turn favorite. Like that's why this movie is one of my favorites, because like, hey, an actual ally instead of like the character being revealed to be a dick.
Yeah, and it breaks that trope that they kind of go back to, and they kind like the dark arts teacher never sticks around. I kind of I hate the fact that they kind of rely on that throughout the entire series to an extent. This though is a nice, and it's also a nice transition to finally get like, though we know Dumbledore's on Harry Potter's side, he is so like hands off, willingly like. He wants to like help Harry, but like from a distance constantly.
Right.
You finally get somebody he can interact with on a regular basis. That's like, I knew your parents. I was their friend.
I know what you've been through. I felt what you felt. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to see that kind of a connection for Harry. And as Kratos mentioned here, also at the end of that scene, they did in the book share a butterbeer and chocolate as well.
He's like the uncle.
He is.
Harry's uncle.
He is. He's the fun uncle.
Yeah, but it's also horrible.
All right.
Fuck off.
We're going to start getting into the thick of things here with this now, as we are probably reaching just about the midpoint of the movie. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione learn that Buckbeak is to be executed, they visit Hagrid in his hut to console him. On the way, Draco taunts them about it, and Hermione punches him in the face. While there, fucking best scene ever. While there, Hagrid says they cannot remain with him during the execution, and that Buckbeak can't be set free, since the officials would know it was Hagrid. Hagrid has also found Ron's lost rat, Scabbers, and returns it to Ron. Ron had wrongly believed that his rat had been eaten by Hermione's cat. As the execution party approaches the hut, stones fly through the window and they leave and run back to the edge of the castle, watching the execution from afar. Scabbers then bites Ron, who chases after him, finally collecting him under the Whomping Willow. The black dog makes another appearance and attacks Ron and drags him along with Scabbers into a hole at the tree's base. Harry and Hermione following, finding a tunnel which leads them to the Shrieking Shack. We're going to pause there, because there's a lot going on with this right here.
Horrible security.
But as I mentioned, a hole under the tree of the Whomping Willow leading to a tunnel that takes to the Shrieking Shack. Excuse me. This is the fun part, because it's at this moment we're all wondering who the fuck is throwing the stones in the window that hit Harry. First hit the flower pot and then hit Harry in the back of the head. So we get that first, another little foreshadowing of what's going on Hermione's end that we don't figure out until just shortly after this.
Yes.
Which is, I believe, that for me, that was another level for this movie that they could have taken that made it that much better compared to the first two.
Well, yeah, yes. No, I agree with you on that. I'm trying to gather my thoughts here. Fuck. Basement, you go.
Yeah, Basement, you go first.
I mean, when it comes to this scene, I get like, well, I'm gonna say like where they go with it. Obviously, they travel back in time. As a rule of thumb, I fucking hate time travel and anything that it's done in. And I feel like at least with this movie, they kind of limit it. It's alluded to with what she's doing, and she's traveling back to like do her classes and shit like that. When they do the time travel shit, it's very like it's like well organized into a very small period of this movie.
Yes, it keeps it within the same year.
Yeah, I mean they never really tell us like how far back you could go, but I always assumed with the time turner it's like a very small time period. What? You
said time turner.
Yeah, that's what it's
called. Yeah,
called.
that's what it's called.
Oh, I used to have one.
I thought you were. Never mind. I'm fucking dead. Anyway, continue.
So like I always figured that like he couldn't go back very far. Kratos says he always liked the punch. He thought it was real from her. When I'm watching it, she has like her knuckles out. Like she punches him like she's doing a fucking E Honda slap. But still, it was a good scene because fuck Malfoy.
Oh fuck yeah.
I knew as soon as she picked it up, like, and I mean this should be a telling tale. When you see like she picks up, it's not just some random rock. It has like this little fucking shell formation on it. It's like, why did they make it look like that? So when you see it the next time, you recognize it. But it was this was a fun. This is when the movie kind of gets like more fun, I guess.
Yeah, this is when the action starts. This is literally the very beginning of it.
It's weird though with Harry Potter movies. I always feel like there's about an hour of start before the movie actually starts.
Right.
Yes.
And in the first two, it was needed for like building the world. In this one, it's used to establish atmosphere. So I don't mind it.
Connor,
That's
are
all
you
I got for
gathered?
this scene.
I don't have too much to add to this scene. So it feels like the whole Buckbeak scene just seems kind of off. I mean, obviously, like
You don't like the
hindsight.
guy sharpening his blade, staring at kids at the
Yeah.
fucking school.
I mean, it's kind of weird. Yes, it's kind of just weird. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. And obviously, the idea of like the benefit of hindsight, but I don't know. It just seemed a little off to like the whole this whole part seemed off to me. It's like, oh, then it makes sense. What is it? 25 minutes later, or whatever it is.
Something like that.
It's also kind of like, why wouldn't you just fucking unshackle the creature and say it got away? Because that's essentially what happens anyway.
Because it would bow. And
Well, the whole
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
not
the
even
fucking
just
bowing
that.
thing is so weird with the animal.
If it's done while they're not there to see Hagrid right in front of their face, then seeing Buckbeak there, and then seeing Hagrid there and having Hagrid in their face the whole time, they absolutely would have suspected that Hagrid had let him loose,
But it's
and
a horse
then he
with
would have gotten in
wings.
more trouble.
It's a horse with wings. If it takes off and disappears, it's like, what are they going to do to Hagrid? Cut his head off?
It's not a horse with wings. It's a bird with hooves.
I hate you. A bird with hooves would be the size of a small bird.
To you.
Just like how over the top the fucking executioner was.
Oh,
He's there,
God,
like,
yeah.
rubbing his blade, with a fucking like half sack on his face.
I was about to say the fucking hood that he had on was fucking hilarious because it was both too big and also never centered.
Why would you wear this? And first of all, wouldn't your head get fucking warm?
You know what? I $10 said it belonged to the guy.
Yeah, sure. Fucking Donkey McGee.
Oh my god.
Holy shit. Anyway.
All right. Whew. All right. In a fast-moving scene, Harry finally confronts Sirius Black, who has been led to believe wishes to kill him and whom he wishes to kill. We discover that as an illegal animagus, Black can transform into an animal at will. Thus, he is also the infamous Black Dog. Professor Lupin, who had spotted the group on the confiscated Marauders map, suddenly bursts in and embraces his old friend Black. Confronted by Hermione, Lupin admits to being a werewolf. Lupin and Black then explain that Black is not the one who betrayed the Potters. Rather, it was Peter Pettigrew, who has been hiding for 12 years in his animagus form as Scabbers, Ron's rat. He is Voldemort's servant, not Black, and he framed Black for his crimes. Meanwhile, Snape bursts in, also confronting Black, but is disposed of by Harry. Harry is skeptical of the story until Black and Lupin force Pettigrew back into his human form, and after some squealing resistance, Pettigrew finally confesses that it is true, proving Black's innocence. Black further clears up the misunderstanding by explaining that on discovery Pettigrew was still alive, he escaped Azkaban in order to kill him. As Lupin and Black are about to kill Pettigrew, Harry stops them and showing Pettigrew mercy, tells him that they will take him back to the castle where he can be left for the Dementors. We're going to pause there.
He gets sucked off.
Yeah. This was the aha moment for this movie. Because it's brought to light that Scabbers has been... It was brought to the light before that Scabbers has been part of the Weasley family for quite a number of years. And even somebody who's not really paying attention, when they hear that it's a 12-year-old rat, wait a minute. Rats don't have that long of a lifespan.
Magic.
It could have been magic, yes, but at the same time, it does get fishy. And I feel the introduction of him and the fact that the rat was also missing one of its toes and Peter Pettigrew had cut off one of his fingers to escape being captured. Fucking brilliant.
So every Harry, with the exception of the last one, there's pretty much a twist in every Harry Potter movie / book. this was without a doubt my favorite one because it took it took so many turns in so many directions, and like some of the stuff you could kind of see coming in the other ones. Like even Order of the Phoenix didn't really have much of a twist in my opinion, but the point is that like there was at least a little like what a twist, fucking M. Night Shyamalan. This one was the best one out of them all by a fucking landslide. Even like as much as I love the Tom Riddle, like little like oh that's neat. Like I said,
Marvolo.
It felt a little kind of out of left field for me. This kind of hit like, and the part that I liked about this the most is that it's not Voldemort directly.
Right.
It's not like it's like yes, it obviously involves Voldemort. It involves like Harry's backstory and learning about his family and friends and allies and stuff like that. That's another reason why I think I like this so much is because it's not like it's Voldemort spelled upside down while eating spaghetti or some weird fucking shit like that.
I knew you'd find me out.
God, it was the mozzarella. But like the fact that it was like something that happened in the past, the revelation, you think you know everything is going, and then it just completely twists and goes a different direction. But it didn't directly. Like, I mean, yes, it involved. It was related to Voldemort, but like it didn't have immediate like ramifications to Voldemort, as it will obviously very very soon. So that's another reason why I really rank this really high as far as like one of my favorites out of all of them. Is this part right here?
It gave us a break from Voldemort being the big bad, and it leads to now his followers and the people that he had with him during his time of power. And really, it's genius storytelling, in my opinion.
It also involves like a twist on a twist on a twist, and all of them make sense for the storyline, which is good. What do I have for?
Yeah.
So they're animaguses, right?
Yes.
I'm assuming are they able to choose what they turn into?
Yes.
Yes,
they are.
Well, when they were all like hanging out together as like, oh, I'm going to be a werewolf. I'm a dog.
Well, you can't choose to be a werewolf, okay? That's not a choice.
It might be, bitch. But like, he's like, okay.
Why is he geese?
My friends are a stag, a werewolf, and a big dog. I'm a rat.
It depends.
Afterwards.
You could choose what to be as far as what you're capable of conjuring.
I think like this movie would be exponentially better if Sirius Black turned into like a Pomeranian.
Well, he explained. It was kind of explained in the book.
I always thought they turned into kind of. I always thought it was like a Patronus, where it's like you're at like the animal form of what you would be, because like Stag makes sense for
James,
Harry's dad. Yeah, Sirius Black's. I don't know if we ever see it, but if we do, it's probably a dog, and maybe fucking Ratface is a rat. But otherwise, it's like this is like that scene. Yes, you guys are right. The aha moment, and it makes everything make sense. This is also that scene where Expelliarmus fucking explodes Snape into another dimension.
All right, here
I nearly spit my drink out.
I had to Google it. You cannot choose your animagus animal, but realistically, an animagus is closely linked to your personality. For example, the brave and rebellious James Potter is famously a stag, whereas the conniving Rita Skeeter is a beetle.
Oh man, that must be like really disappointing when you find out what. Oh man, I'm a rat.
Big bad beetle squish.
So that's hilarious.
So then it makes sense that Sirius would be a dog, because he's fiercely loyal to his friends, and he's very protective of his area.
So?
Now, moving on. As the group heads back to the castle, Harry and Sirius pause and chat optimistically. Harry remarks that Pettigrew would have been of no use dead, Firstly, he didn't want his father's two best friends to be killers, and secondly, he is the key in proving Sirius's innocence. Sirius suggests that Harry comes to live with him. They are disturbed, however, when, as the full moon rises, it causes Lupin to turn into the dangerous werewolf since he had neglected to take his potion, which inhibits his transformation. Black responds by transforming again into the Black Dog in order to protect Harry, Ron, and Hermione. The werewolf and Black have a vicious fight. During the ensuing commotion, Pettigrew transforms himself back into the rat and escapes, not pursued. Harry runs forward in his angst at Sirius's torture at the hands of the werewolf, inadvertently attracting its attention. However, while approaching Harry, it is distracted by some other distant werewolf cry. Meanwhile, Sirius, badly injured, had moved down to the nearby lake where he lies at the edge. Harry follows and kneels over him. As he does so, a swarm of Dementors approach them. Harry produces a Patronus to try to fend them off. However, it is not nearly strong enough, and they both begin to submit to the Dementors. Then, on the other side of the river appears a brilliant white symbol of a stag and an immense Patronus, which drives the Dementors away. Harry then faints. We're going to pause there because there's a lot that happens in that scene. Yeah. Lupin changes, and frankly, again, CGI work is done beautifully here. And go ahead, Basement.
Yep. I love his face when he looks at the moon. He's like coming in his pants. The casting for Peter Pettigrew is so fucking good.
Oh my god, yes.
I know we gushed about the other cast, but he might be the best casting choice for that role.
Yeah, I agree.
He's a rad human being. And I think fucking the pitch reading for this, where it's like they have the Marauders the Marauders map, and they see a rat sleeping in his bed, or fucking they see a man named Peter sleeping with Ron.
Yeah.
They never once asked him.
Never say anything.
That's fucking great. I didn't even think of that.
It's so good.
Oh my god. But yeah, Snape actually gets between Harry and the werewolf coming at them before hearing the cry of another werewolf off in the distance. So that's where the background image comes from, and that's where we see Snape is actually trying to protect his students. So that's another foreshadowing into the real Snape.
Especially after he got demolished.
Yeah! Fucking Expelliarmus missed his nuts out his throat. Jesus Christ.
I do want to say, Sirius Black is one of my favorite characters in the books and in the movies. They don't get a lot of them in the movies. The scene where he talks to Harry right outside of the tree, and he's telling him, you got a place to live if you want to come live with me. It's one of those moments that is really well done.
It's one of those moments where it's like, finally, Harry can be happy all year.
It's one of the rare W's that Harry gets in the early years of these stories.
It's also so unbelievably needed for where they go with Sirius's character.
Oh, yeah.
I also put underneath, sucks to be you, because we know where it's going to go.
We know what happens next, yeah. And it's just, oh, God. It's in that moment, though, you're drawn in, and you're like, oh, my God. Harry doesn't have to go back to the Dursleys. He could go back with Sirius Black, because he's going to be cleared of all this shit, and he's going to be able to go back to a normal life. And now Harry will be able to be somewhere where he can not only truly learn about his father and his mother, but also learn further about all of this magic and learn about everything that would have been his to begin with and be happy.
It's such a good step forward for the movie, going from here's a bunch of pictures of your parents to here are people that knew them, that respected them, that were actual friends with them, and the one person that betrayed them.
And went to school with them. Knew them literally as children. And
in the same school that you're going to, it's just it builds on the lore so well.
It does.
This is that moment. Like I said before, this is that movie that really hook, line, and sinkered me for the Harry Potter universe.
Yeah, and as you mentioned at the start of this is where it starts to get darker too, and it's as Harry, you're seeing Harry growing up more, and at the same time, you're realizing that he's becoming more of a man. And he's trying to take those steps to be more of a man, to try and get, not only get away from the Dursleys, but also to try and get away from the past of Voldemort and be his own person.
I also love the fact that this was a big. We had that moment where I can hear myself for some reason. I don't know what it is, but it goes away after a while. This is that moment where you get the aha, and there's like everybody's switching sides, and we start to learn where loyalties lie. And then this movie continues to be like, do you really know everything that's going on?
Yes! Oh my fucking god, yes. Connor, what do you have to add?
Sucks to suck! No.
Not a pure Dementor.
It is. Dementor's been doing all the sucking. I'm basically just kind of repeating a lot what Basement you guys said, was that, like, it's nice to have it, like, tell them, like, holy shit, Harry's gonna have an actual, like,
real life?
Yeah, and then, of course, it's like, no, fuck you, we pulled the rug out from underneath you and have that whole shit happen. And guess what, folks? Still not done yet. And like I said in the last 2 reviews, this is one of the strengths, that, especially these early Harry Potter series, is that it does a great job of foreshadowing, planting the seeds, relatively natural progressing storylines where it's just like relative fun, and then like the ending, it's like dun dun dun.
Yeah.
But this one has my favorite because it literally is going against the grain that we've seen for the last 2 movies or books, films, stories.
Yes. Both, honestly, both.
Stop sleeping with Peter Pettigrew.
You're not alone.
All right, now we are getting to where everything fucking happens. Harry awakens in the hospital wing to hear the news that Sirius Black had been captured and is about to be given the Dementor's kiss to suck out his soul. Dumbledore enters, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione try and convince him of Black's innocence. Dumbledore somehow already knows, but says that their word alone won't be believable. However, he suggests mysteriously that Harry and Hermione travel in time back. Good job, IMDb. Travel back in time by using Hermione's time-turning device. We now find out how she has been attending simultaneous classes.
Cloning.
And at least save both Black and Buckbeak from their fates. Hermione turns her hourglass necklace back 3 turns, 3 hours. And Harry and Hermione together are thrust into the past, where they observe and remold the evening's events. They throw stones through the window of Hagrid's hut, alerting themselves of the approach of the execution party. They rescue Buckbeak while the execution party is inside with Hagrid shortly before the execution, thus absolving Hagrid of any blame. Hermione diverts the attention of the werewolf Lupin, stalking the past Harry with an imitation of another werewolf's cry. And from a hiding place in the forest, Harry watches the Dementor sequence and realizes, as the stag symbol fails to appear, that he must have been the one who conjured the powerful Patronus. We're going to pause there because there's still another fucking paragraph left in here, Jesus Christ. Just for this section alone. With this part, I love that Dumbledore was actually the one to sit there and say, if you move fast enough, perhaps more than just one life will be saved tonight. So that's him clicking the wheels in Hermione's head, saying, stop by Hagrid's first and take care of that. And I love that in this scene, when they are hiding in the forest while they come out behind the pumpkins, you hear in the house that Dumbledore should also sign the paperwork, signifying that he was there to witness the execution as well. And you hear Fudge saying, yeah, I suppose, but just your name. And Dumbledore, well, it's a rather long name.
Yeah, I did like a little clever trick there. I am torn on this.
Okay.
This is one of the things that I'm a little like because I hate time travel.
I do too, but I'm with Basement. They kept it contained to within not only the same year, but the same day. So it's not as much of an impact versus Marvel with the multiverse.
Listen, I am not standing on my fucking sandbox on that one. I am letting the fucking multiverse die in the pool of its own blood over in Marvel. So yes, I think that what I will say is that out of everything, not just Marvel, but like everything that time travel like as a narrative, probably one of the best ones as far as how they interwove it into the end part of the story. Like problem is that it's again another kind of random like, hey, by the way, we're gonna do this, and just throw this thing at the very. It just I don't know. I feel a little. I don't hate it, but it just seems like it's like, oh, by the way, the answer to everything is time travel. Like what the fuck? Like where the fuck did this? Again, it was properly foreshadowed with Hermione showing up in so many classes and all that stuff, but it feels kind of cheapish.
You know what it is?
It's a gripe that I have with this movie. Or it's really the only major thing I have like a little like issue with, because it's just I feel like it's almost unnecessary that they needed to do that.
You know what it is? It's not the fact that it's used in this way towards the end of the movie. It's the fact that the foreshadowing of it is so contrived. It's like, why would you ever give Hermione a time turner to take more classes? It's such a fucking cop out of a reason why that it exists with her.
It's explained in the book, and Hermione even said in the movie, Professor McGonagall gave it to me at the start of term because I wanted to take so many classes.
It's just such a powerful wizarding tool that I don't accept that. Well, in all honesty, so like when they do end up using it, I think I'm fine with the way that it's used in this instant toward the end of the movie. I'm just not fine with the way it gets introduced, and therefore why she has it. But otherwise, I mean, like I said before, with the time turner shit, it is at least told in a very concise manner. It's not like a fix-all for everything moving forward or behind, and it's kind of just in this moment. So
yeah.
It's okay for that. One thing I did want to say, and we didn't really touch on it, is like after Harry gets knocked out by the fucking Dementors, he comes to light and he's like, I saw my dad.
Yeah.
And my dad was this person that did. And this is actually really interesting, and I like it so much because this comes off him kind of being sucked back into his dad's world with Lupin and Sirius. And then he actually thinks that it's possible my dad would come back, since these people that I never knew about that know everything. And it's kind of like that innocent moment of him still being a kid, thinking something that's impossible could be possible
because he's still learning the magical world. Yeah
that was a great instance. Now, as for the time turner and how it goes moving forward from this point,
we never hear about it again.
No, but from this point, like the way that the story took place in the last 30 minutes and then you add this layer to it, it works for me. Throwing the stones and saving Buckbeak, and like being the one that howled, it all kind of fits in a nice, concise place. So I have no problem with it. And then Harry kind of getting the understanding that I've been training for this, I can fucking do it. Then you get that, like, I mean, it's pretty much a badass moment for Harry Potter.
Oh god, yeah! Like, it's another step towards him reaching adulthood, essentially.
It makes him like a very respectable wizard moving forward, that he can produce Patronus, because it's supposed to be something that like only really high level wizards can do.
Yeah, as Lupin said when he was teaching him, it's a very powerful spell and it requires a very powerful, happy memory.
No, it's very weird because I would have loved. And I think this would have helped the movie a lot, and it's in two aspects. The time turner, I do wish we had a bit more exposition on its limitations instead of just being left up to the audience.
Well, as it says here in this, she turns it back 3 turns, which is equivalent to 3 hours.
Yeah, so you know you're not going to sit there and turn it back 7,000 times.
Right.
Go back 7,000 hours. But I do wish there was a little bit more of something. I also love the fact that when Dumbledore says, 3 turns might do it.
Yeah.
Dumbledore is a character that always seems to kind of know more than everybody else and where things are going. And there's a scene when they later come back and he said,
I love that.
They talk to Dumbledore and they're like, "We did it," and he's like, "Did what?"
Yeah.
That sold me on him as Dumbledore.
Yes.
That was my favorite scene for Dumbledore in this.
I have a note for that too, where it's just like he's like, "Did what? Have a good night."
Peace out, bitches.
He just leaves.
Because it was literally like 1 second for the man.
Yeah.
Did what? I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, have a good night. He walks away.
So yeah, that was great. I also wish they kind of gave more of a reasoning for the Patronus charm outside of the Dementor stuff. I know that they use it a bit different as a guiding light later in the movies, but I wish it had more purpose than just for Dementors.
I believe it does. I believe the Patronus not just fights off the Dementors, but I think it's also basically the counter to one of the illegal curses.
I'm looking it up right now.
No, thank you. I was just going to do it myself.
I'm sure it has more use than just Dementors, but it would be nice to kind of like have that in like when he was teaching him.
Yes.
In that room. He'd be
have him
is used for
give the list
Dementors,
of things that it could be used
but
for.
But it's also this type of offensive spell or protective charm.
Right.
And I know it's used later in a different way. Later on,
it's used several different ways. But go on, Connor.
It's the only spell that works on a Dementor. The only one.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just hoping it has more than that.
Don't think so.
That's the one failing part of the Harry Potter universe. Things are very, like, directly connected.
Mm-hmm.
The world isn't, like... I mean, everything seems to have, like, here's the cause and here's the fix. It's not, like... It doesn't reflect the real world where you'd, like, learn something that is widely applicable.
Right.
Which I mean, it's just the way that the story's told. And I get it. It's half the books are for fucking, like, really young kids and young teenagers. Yeah. You're not going to have this, like, extensive lore beyond, like, but whatever. Be it, like, the most intense, like, spell casting shit you're not going to really have. It's got to be something that a 12-year-old can get.
Yeah. Moving on to finish off this part of the movie. After saving his past self and Black from the Dementors, Harry and Hermione fly on Buckbeak's back to the tower, where Black is imprisoned, and rescue him. Harry and Black share a moment of contemplation, as since Black is going to be back on the run, still wanted and without proof of his innocence, their relationship will now sadly be fraught with complications, and Harry's dream of living with his godfather is shattered. However, Harry takes comfort in knowing that Black, although still considered a fugitive, is at least free and safe for the time being. Black and Buckbeak leave, Black riding on his back. Harry and Hermione make it back to the hospital wing just as the timeline restores itself, and is at a reticent Dumbledore, Jesus Christ, merrily bids them good night, as we had already talked about. As the school year end approaches, Lupin announces that he is resigning, believing that the parents of the students would not be comfortable in the now open knowledge that he is a werewolf. He returns the Marauder's map to Harry since he is no longer a professor. Harry later receives a gift from an unknown source, a firebolt, an extremely fast racing broom. Hermione holds up a large feather also contained within the parcel, confirming that Sirius must have sent it. Harry tries it out and is whisked away from sight, ending the film with a snapshot image of Harry flying his new broom is static. Also slightly blurred because he's going faster than the speed of light, apparently.
Breaking the fucking sound barrier.
It's such a weird ending.
It is such a weird ending, but this is also the first movie where we have the Marauder's map for the credits.
That's true too.
Oh yeah, I did like that.
So I can't remember it exactly, but there's like the scene where they go and they break out Sirius Black and
Mm-hmm.
he gets with fucking Buckbeak and flies away. Before that happens, he talks to Harry, and the talk to Harry is really good.
Yes.
Where
Yeah.
Harry's like doubting, I didn't do anything, nothing was accomplished or whatever, and he's like, it's kind of like I can't remember it verbatim, but he's like, it made all the world of difference. You freed an innocent man,
Yep.
and you saved 2 lives or whatever. So he kind of like shows him that like you might not be changing the world, but like you got to start somewhere,
You made
and
one
you shouldn't
small
be so
change.
hard on
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
You made one small
So-
change that is also the most important change, and it's the important change for you, which is what you needed to do.
But I go back to the argument of like the last 2 movies where like, oh, the new person is really a dick in disguise.
Yeah.
Whereas it's the polar opposite here, where he actually gets like 2 allies and like he ends up, obviously you have like Dumbledore and like Hagrid, like allies that he made the first and second, movie and story. But this one, it feels like he's starting to get like, basically the best way I can describe it is remnants of a family.
Yes.
Yeah. This is like
And-
the beginning of the Avengers assembling.
Yes.
Yeah. Specto Patronum. Time travel's better.
But it's so desperately needed in this case because Harry's kind of he like his first like beginning of that family was with 2 other kids. Now we're getting like parental figures or at least
Yeah.
adults that can be a bit more of use than just Ron and Hermione, though they're important. It's kind of nice to get that like aspect that not the entire world is against you or disbelieving of you, and though the movie kind of like takes them away from him. From like a physical perspective, they're still there for guidance later on in the series.
Yeah, and it's also it's not even just getting those parental figures, those adult figures in his life that are going to help shape him into being the best person he could be. It's also the fact that he can learn more about his parents when they were children, and learn more about how they were handling his birth. All of
Access
that,
into
all
something
that,
he's
all
lost.
those memories that are lost because he was never able to create them with his parents himself. They can now be restored through the eyes of another person.
That's the only connection he has that's
Yeah.
legitimate. That's like, I mean, yes, he could talk to Dumbledore about his parents, but Dumbledore is not like it wasn't the same, right? It's
Right.
like an observe. He knew them from observation, not knowing.
Well,
them.
no, he was also part of the Order of the Phoenix in a very
Yeah.
small connection. So he had that. He had the observation of them growing up and going through school, but he also had the observation of them as adults during the first magical war against Voldemort.
But I also
So-
feel like that's like the difference between working together and then hanging out
Yes.
outside of work,
Mhm.
having drinks, being like,
Yeah.
actually part of someone's life.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah, it was a great movie.
No,
so.
I mean, the ending was fucking hilarious.
Oh
But
God,
it just
yes.
raised him up.
Fucking-
Hauling ass.
him magically receiving these anonymous gifts every year. It seems like.
I swear I didn't open it. The twins did. Bullshit.
See,
This movie and this story still stands as one of my favorites. Despite my like iffyism with the time travel, even still, I'm nitpicking. There's really not too much for me else otherwise to like really bitch and complain about, other than Dementors being the fucking worst form of childcare and babysitting I've ever fucking heard of. Other than that, I really don't have any complaints with this movie.
What would you
I'm
rate it
with
out
you.
of 10?
I would go 8.5, maybe like even like 8.7. Like it's really strong. Like I joke and nitpick because that's what we fucking do on here. But even with my like squigginess about the time travel and like the exposition stuff, it's really small potatoes in the grand scheme of things. Great
Right.
acting, great storytelling. I love the twist. It feels like we're going in the direction of the maturity and like the growing of the franchise and growing of Harry.
Mm-hmm.
So you can expect a Patronum on everybody. Yeah, I'm sticking with like I'd say like 8.7.
Basement?
Yeah, this movie is, in my opinion, the heaviest lifter of the franchise. It has the most weight on its shoulders for for what the rest of the series becomes. This is that transition that happens between kids movie and, I'm gonna say, legitimate movie. Yes, there's legitimate kids movies, but just like if the franchise continued in the first and second's vein, it would be fine, but it wouldn't have been what's special about Harry Potter. So you get this one. This one comes out. It has a more realistic tone. They improve on every aspect of the movies that came before, like legitimately every aspect. It also gets to the point where now, like, even if you're not a book fan, you are probably going to be a fan of Harry Potter if you at least like the sort like the fantasy aspect of it.
Well, it's funny. I feel the same way about the fourth one.
I agree. The fourth one but this is that one that really like starts it all. So there's going to be, I'm definitely going to give it extra credit for that. It's not the best Harry Potter movie in my mind. Like, I mean, it's not the best story.
You too.
It's not the best Harry Potter story. It's very much when I look at the story, this is actually like more of a filler storyline. But the filler is so good that that the absence of Voldemort is not felt. Yes, he's alluded to a little bit, but it's such a smart idea to take a step away from Voldemort, because now we've got the inklings in the first two. If it just went back to Voldemort again, but didn't actually give us Voldemort, I think a lot of people would have been kind of pissed off. And I really like the fact that where the fourth movie goes with the introduction of Voldemort, right? This is just like
fucking object.
It's a perfectly placed this is to J.K. Rowling's, perfectly placed for her putting this at the third installment. And I've expertly realized the film. I really like I said before, I was reviewing this, and I'm like reviewing it to critique it more than anything else. And I'm like, man, I just ran out of things to critique, because I'm like, okay, yes, the time turner, yes, these are like the big points, but like the minutia, the details inside, I'm like, I really have nothing to say bad about this.
No.
Yes, there's some contrivances or with the time turning and with the what was the fucking whatever. There's another one earlier on in the movie that we talked about. Oh, with the Dementors, yeah. But the design of the Dementors was fucking great. The way that they're introduced, the set design again is absolutely perfect. The score is perfect. This movie really doesn't, and it's 2 hours and 20 minutes. It doesn't feel 2 hours and 20 minutes.
No,
this is the first one I didn't really feel the length of on a rewatch, which is good.
Yeah.
I'm right with you, Connor. I am gonna give this one, for me it's my favorite Harry Potter movie, but I'm comfortable to say it's not the best Harry Potter movie.
I agree.
I give it it's an 8.5, 8.5 for me, 8.5. Maybe 8.75, somewhere between those.
Yeah.
And JP's rating is 8.25. He's around there with that. No, he's in agreement with me. It is, this being the turning point of the series is probably the greatest spot for it, because he, at this point in Harry Potter's life,
we're all fried.
Harry Potter.
Oh my god.
Harry Papsmear.
It's
Harry Pumpernickel.
It's the point where he's getting to like the midpoint of puberty almost in this movie. We're seeing him grow up more. We're seeing him want to take more charge of his own life, and he wants happiness. He wants to be where his parents were, because that's where he is the most happy. And the placement of this movie and the book, I feel, were probably the most perfect you can get out of any series. And the fact that they took the more dark turn with the events going on, but then shining that light of Harry has outlets now. Yep. Harry has people he can reach out to, that if things things get to be too bad. It's not just another kid his age that really can't do anything to help him.
Neville.
He has adults he can reach out to aside from his professors. So it was great for him to have that moment and have that, you know, to have that weight released at least. And in the book, the way the book ends is actually Harry showing back up in London at King's Cross and telling the Dursleys, oh yeah, you know that murderer we've been hearing about all summer? Well, turns out he's my godfather. So keep fucking with me and keep finding out.
Fuck around and expect a Patronum.
So, having that ending in the book was much better than the movie ending, in my opinion. But the length of the movie, I felt, was also the perfect length, because they got to explain everything that they needed to explain for this point of Harry's life.
Yeah.
And his learning at the moment. So, for me, I'm going closer to JP's with the 8.25, and I agree with Basement. Yes, this is one of the best Harry Potter movies, but it's not my favorite.
It's my favorite, but it's not the best.
Okay, but yeah,
it's close enough.
Yeah, it is the best. It's not my favorite. Mine is actually Order of the Phoenix.
See, when I say my favorite, it's such a slim. On my first watch through, and because I love the book so much, there's favoritism here for this movie. And on my first watch through, yes, I would say this is my favorite. But like as we go on, they just get better. Like they're just better movies. They do, in all honesty. And I'll probably concede to this being my favorite at the end of this whole thing, but it's definitely one of my favorite Harry Potter movies. One of the top 3. Right.
Which, when we get to the end of this, we'll do a rating system, like, for each individual one of us, you know, which ones are, you know, we'll put them in order for us individually. And I think at the end, I think it'd be a fitting ending to the round table if we all figured out what house we belonged in and what Patronus and wand we would have.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that. It's up to you, but we could do that at any point in time. Mm-hmm. We could even do that as like a break between this movie and the next, or the next movie and the next for one of the weeks on Monday, because then we can be like, you know, root for our own houses. Fuck that shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And of course, I will share the link in the chat for those of you in the chat to follow along with as well, to get your own house, wand, and Patronus. I believe the Wizarding World quiz also gives you your familiar, if I remember right, the new one that they have out. So, yeah, I will share the link for everybody to be able to do that. Maybe we'll do that next week.
Yeah, I'd be down with that. Take a break from the movies to the quiz or whatever the fuck it is. That's pretty, from what I've seen of it, it's pretty
in depth,
fucking top notch. Yeah,
it's in depth. I mean, for your Patronus, I did this already to link my Wizarding World account and WB account to Hogwarts Legacy. I already did this. My Patronus is a black mamba.
Interesting.
Kobe Bryant.
And to take that quiz, you are literally running through the dark forest, and you have to quickly answer questions as they pop up. So when you get to that quiz on the Wizarding World website, oh my god, it's so beautifully done. So beautifully done.
I will die if JP is Slytherin.
Oh my god, yes, he needs to be awake for that for next week. He needs to do it. Maybe I'll take it again under a different email and see if I get a different response than what I got. So, all right, that's going to wrap it up for the roundtable this week. Connor, do you have a definite date for the release, the early release for 2K23?
For what?
2K23.
The what? I don't know what that is.
Uh-huh.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right, so then we're not doing anything for the rest of the week until Friday.
Hey, I admit it. I didn't say that.
What day are we doing it? Don't show me things I don't want to see. God, yeah.
All right, so as you see here.
Why is he on the front, my
It
GM?
just
Block me?
fucking finished downloading it, and I downloaded it at midnight on the dot.
Okay.
Over 2 hours ago.
Guy fucking block me? See it.
Yeah.
My GM.
Oh god, the showcase of Cena. That's no.
I've heard it's not too bad, but
We all heard that Rey Mysterio showcase wasn't that bad.
booyaka, booyaka!
Yeah.
Lawsuit, yeah.
So Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm down
Sure.
for Wednesday. Wednesday's best for me.
Okay, so Wednesday we are going to try and break this game that you are seeing playing on your screen right now, and that is WWE 2K23. Oh, it's going to be a fun night. See all the glitches we could possibly get out of this. Why is she the cover of the Superstars? Jesus Christ.
I don't know.
Luther.
Thursday, I will be back with some more Hogwarts Legacy for y'all. Hopefully I'll have had more sleep in my system and I'll be able to better play the game than I did last time. And then Friday, we will either do GM mode or JP will do some football. We'll see. And that'll bring us back to Sunday for No Bucks Given. Yeah. It's going to be a fun week this week. It's going to be jam-packed. That is for sure.
I don't know if you guys can see the screen right now, but you see what I'm doing?
Yes, you're downloading some special
I
content.
think the downloads are faster.
Oh, fuck yeah, they are.
Mm-hmm. Also, there's a creator safe mode
Oh.
Ooh.
for copyright issues.
Music-wise?
Yep. It just
Okay.
Yes.
We
No.
can have music, though, finally.
No, okay. What if we choose so in the game there's like some fucking bullshit music that's not the music that they play for like wrestlers coming out. No? Oh,
No.
fuck.
No, because it's part of the game, it's still copyrighted.
Yeah, too many distinct. But anyway.
I hate you, game.
Yeah, I agree. So, yeah. Stick around, make sure you're subscribed, give us a big old like, and turn on the notification bell as well. Y'all have a good night, and we shall see you again Wednesday.
Peace out, bitches.